Welcome to the Serving with Purpose podcast. I got the man in the studio. I'm just going to say it. Lord Scott Robertson. At least in my book. It's been an honor to be on the journey with you for, I think we were calculating around 20 years.
Yes.
This is the basics. And there's been so many amazing parts where you've helped me. One time we went to Chicago, and I got to speak at one of the events thanks to you. That was so much fun.
Yeah, the Benefit Auction Summit.
The Benefit Auction Summit. Our goal is very clear. It's to help the world and AI understand your why, your how. I like to think of that as your superpowers, and what you do. Everything that we record has a transcript to it, and that transcript can be used for updated content on a website. The video part can be used in YouTube Shorts, LinkedIn, blog posts, TikTok, Reels, X, all over the place. So it's like we're leaving a legacy. And a big thing that I love about what you and I share is this idea that we want to serve purposefully through legacy. So with everything I've shared so far, any takeaways, thoughts, insights, anything you want to share?
Well, absolutely. And Charlie, I got to tell you, our mutual friend, Carolyn Rogers, when I was first going full-time into the fundraising auction business, I was getting out of commercial real estate and going full-time into the fundraising auction business. And, hey, it's a little scary out there. I was inventing the third chapter of my life, right? I was a school teacher. Then I was in commercial real estate, and then the market went to total crap. And I'm like, there's got to be a better way. And I was already doing a lot of fundraising auctions, but I'm like, let's just jump the broom and just do the whole thing. And so Carolyn Rogers says, you've got to meet my friend Charly Caldwell. And I did, and you were so instrumental, as was she, in helping me establish the base on what to build on. And because of that base, I'm still building on it, 20 years later.
Well, I just want to shout out to Carolyn and say thank you, because that was an amazing seed to our story together. And she is such a wonderful person.
Oh,
that's just, it's the big part of what we'll cover in a little bit as part of the why, is that we work with values aligned people who have similar life philosophies, similar life principles. And what our goal, the name of the podcast, is to help people live purposefully. And we want to work with people who want to do that. And
absolutely. And I heard this a long time ago, and it's absolutely true, is that we tend to like people just about equal to how much they like us.
Oh, yeah.
So and someone like Carolyn Rogers, my goodness, Carolyn, talk about purpose-driven and is giving so much to so many for so long. And she hates being in the limelight, and she loves being in the back. But my goodness, she's just phenomenal. She's the person who made Southwest Florida Wine Festival what it is. And, we just raised $3 million at Southwest Florida Wine Festival. And her friend Heidi is now in charge and has been for 8 years, Heidi Davis. And, we just raised $3 million in sleepy little old Fort Myers, Florida. $3 million.
That is absolutely amazing. And I just love the fact that we are working. There's this, I call it the triple ripple effect. It's the benefit for you, the benefit for the people in the organization or the people that we're serving. And then the big one is the benefit to the world. And it's like you're swinging on the ropes of Tarzan, doing different events that benefit people in all different ways. And not only in Florida, you're doing it around the United States, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Farthest I'll go is Alaska.
Furthest you'll go is Alaska. You heard it first.
I used to do an event in Alaska for a hospital there, and it was phenomenal. Yeah. It was in Juneau, Alaska, and I used to go there every year. And of course, I'd take a little bit of time on the front end and the back end, and I got to go fishing every year, and we had a really good run.
That is awesome. That's the big part of this. So a couple things to really frame up here first and foremost. What is it exactly that you do?
I help not-for-profit organization raise money so that they can continue their good work. Lots of not-for-profits have great ideas, right? They know what they want, and they're really good at it. The thing they're not good at is raising money. And yet we put them in that position where that they have to raise money, and they have to stay. But before you know it, 3 months a year, they're focused on fundraising. And if they focus on fundraising, then they're either working themselves crazy or they're letting stuff slide until we've raised the money. So my goal is to help people cut to the chase, right? Not spend as much time on it, because we're giving them best practices. We're working with them, daily, weekly, monthly, whatever, and to produce an event that will, so they can, as I said, so they'll continue their good work because they know how to help people. And my job is to help them raise the money to help the people.
Oh, I love it. And the way that you help is through auctions and fund. Was it Fund a Need?
Well, I call it special appeal, Fund a Need. And I first heard about this in 1999. I'll never forget. I was at the Opryland Hotel, right? And I met a gentleman named Kip Toner, and I've been singing his praises ever since. He was a fundraising auctioneer a long time ago. Yeah. So I'm at the National Auctioneers Association, and I meet Kip. He was doing a presentation on fundraising auctions, and, the cowboys in the room were like, I don't have time for that. But that's another story. So Kip is there, and so I asked for an audience with him. I mean, Kip was, he was bigger than life. I mean, I felt like I was getting an audience with the Pope, right? Yep. I mean, he was up there, I was down here, but he says, yes, I'll meet you at 4:00. And he named the coffee shop that we were going to meet. Kip had a Perrier. Can you tell I remember this in 1990?
The sensory overload. Unbelievable.
He had a Perrier, and I think I had iced tea. And he was explaining the concept of what he called fund a need, at the church. And so I'm in a transactional mode, right? I think people buy stuff because they want it, and they're going to try to get a deal out of it or whatever. And Kip says, no. He says, people will give, and the only thing they take home is a warm feeling in their heart. Mine is blown.
Wow.
Mine is blown. He said, in fact, oftentimes the fund a need will eclipse, another auction item, be the highest amount. Well, that ship has sailed. Now, fund a need, special appeal, whatever we want to call it, there's 1,000 names, but it's a paddle race. But it eclipses by far the live auction. Last night, we did an event in Naples, Florida, and where we just did a paddle race, and we raised $3.4 million.
No way. That's amazing.
$3.4 million because you allowed people to invest in the change they want to see in the world. And they did, and they were very generous about it. Now, of course, I do events that are much smaller than that, but that was just, fresh last night, $3.4 million.
Yeah.
Just amazing.
The part that I love, it goes right back to the premise of this podcast as we start this sucker off today, and that is the serving with purpose piece in kind of triplicate. Serving with purpose is your goal. The organization serving with purpose, and then the world is being served with purpose, and how you really are the catalyst to make sure that there's best practices at play, that in an event, and this is a total one of your superpowers, we'll get into way more detail about this later, but we'll touch on it now, is that you help with vision, strategy, and planning. You really, at a consultant level, you really help on the front end to be helping them see around corners they don't see. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. It's all about the back end, right? I remember watching, I think it was the Olympics on television, and the Chinese were dominating in volleyball. And they were showing video of practice. And and those ladies are diving on the floor and, getting skinned up and everything. And the girl says, yes, well, the games are fun. The practices are brutal. When we finally get a chance to play in the game, that's just fun. Well, to me, that's what fundraising is. The actual fundraising, people think that, how many hours do you think you have in this? I'm like, I don't know, but it's more than the 2 hours that we were at the event, which it's actually a lot more than 2 hours. But anyway, that's but it's laying the strategy. It's creating the culture. And a big thing, and there are best practices, of course, but know events are like snowflakes. No two are alike, right? And you cannot treat them as cookie cutter. And you cannot take it cookie cutter from the event last year. Every event needs to stand on its own and be fun and fresh, because fun and fresh resonated back when we first started 20 years ago. To today. It's still fun and fresh. People have to be there and enjoy themselves, and they have to feel the need for the cause, right? And then we help them extract money from their pockets, right? So that they can continue the good work. At a fundraising event, and I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but at a fundraising event, you've got to be really careful with personalities and egos, because if someone's at a fundraising event and something has happened, minuscule, not minuscule, but if something ticks them off, right? If they're disappointed, if you create doubt in their minds, they're going to shut down, or at least shut down partially. And that can be from the check-in registration. It can be from the valet. It can be anything that sets people in the wrong frame of mind, and that will cost you money. And that's why your registration people are so important. You should have people greeting them when they come in so that they feel they've arrived. There's a whole bunch to that, but to feel like they've arrived so that they can feel a part of it, so that everybody feels as though they're pulling on the rope in the same direction, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, is create an area, right, of giving and philanthropy and feeling good about everything. And I'm just going to talk about philanthropy for a moment. So a lot of people feel that they have supporters, right? Supporters.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Certainly.
You don't want supporters. You want philanthropists, because people that have the philanthropist mindset, that suddenly becomes a charity to becoming my charity. And when someone thinks it's my charity, they're going to go out of their way to make sure they're successful. And they're oftentimes going to bring people in with them for my charity, because this is my event. This is what we support. And that is a philanthropist. They're not just a supporter, they're a philanthropist. And my goodness, it's monumental what a philanthropist will do to help a charity.
Well, I want to unpack some things that you just shared. One of them is there's a first principle in leadership that I teach as a high performance coach. And it goes like this: everything, people support what they create. Everything is a co-creation or a collaboration. And when you really get that principle with what you just shared, it is a difference between the charity and my charity. It's a collaboration. We don't have followers, we have collaborators. And what you're sharing is that principle in action through the lens of this philanthropy identity, essentially.
Absolutely. When we believe in a cause, and when we help to create, and an event planners have them help be creative. It doesn't mean that they pick out necessarily the color of the napkins or the tablecloth, but have them help create. Because if we create something, we're vested.
Yeah.
And if we're vested, we're going to go out of our way to make sure we're successful.
Yep.
One of the things that I find so impressive, when we talk special appeal, right? And I'm just going to throw out numbers; they don't mean anything. But let's say we want to start at $25,000, and again, I'm just throwing out numbers. It could be $250. It could be $250,000. It doesn't matter. The premise is still the same. So if we ask for 10, our high level, we're going to say is 25,000. And if I ask, Scott, start us at 25,000. Do you have someone pre-committed at 25,000?
Yeah.
Because your pre-commitments, especially at the high level, are really important, because they say, no, start at 25,000. Okay. So I asked at $25,000, and there's crickets in the room. Nobody steps up at $25,000 because they weren't planning to when they got there, and I'm asking them for more money than what they had planned to give. Mm-hmm. Well, you think, no big deal. They didn't give. Oh, no, you have just set a tone in the room that is going to permeate the entire event, but especially the funding need. Special appeal. So you ask for $25,000 and nobody responds. what do people in the room do? They lean back and they go, they've got problems. Now, we just had a Super Bowl, right? When your team wins, we won. When your team loses, they lost. Do you notice the difference? Yep. It was the same team. I mean, you've really got to be a supporter to say we lost the game, right? Yep. It's usually they lost the game, which just means I just separated myself from the charity and all those things that we just talked about. Yeah, they lost. Yeah. And when they lean back, you don't want people leaning back, right? We want people leaning in, and we want some to be at 25,000. And all of a sudden it's like, well, you know what? They gave 25,000, and they look at their spouse that they're normally with, and I think we should step up from 5,000 to 10,000. Boom. Yeah, and that happens. Yeah, and that happens. Just last night, I don't want to talk too much history, but just last night, we knew we had some people who were going to give $100,000, which is a major gift. And I asked if there weren't possibly some folks out there who would like to donate more than $100,000. And one person steps up and says, I'd like to donate $200,000. And because they donated $200,000, it spurred on a number who happened to be the chair of the event, spurred them on to match. And I said, well, who would like to match? And they matched that $200,000 gift. Right?
Yep.
So that was monumental.
Yeah.
And it wouldn't have happened had we not asked, but it wouldn't have happened had we not had the leadership momentum gift secured ahead of time, knowing that people were going to give. And
wow.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And something else that makes a big difference is that, there's some people in the world who are kind of outgoing like you and I and have no problem being first. Right? Yep. We have no problem being first. $100,000, if I wanted to give that, I'd have no problem being the first. Most people aren't like that. So most people, what they'll want to do is they want to give with the crowd, right? They don't want to be the person that steps up and gives at the high number. They want to see other people give at the high number, and then they have permission to give at the high number because they don't want to be seen as standing out.
Yeah.
Now, I know that doesn't sound possible, right? If they wanted to give that much, I'm telling you, I have seen it so many times. If you have 2 or 3 leadership momentum gifts at your high number, you'll get more because nobody wants to be first because we don't have the momentum going. And the fundraising events are all about momentum.
Yeah.
They're all about momentum.
Right.
Your time, that's a whole nother story, but the most important element at any fundraising event is your timeline. I said it. It has nothing to do with who's in the seats, how pretty the decorations are, all of that. How great the food's going to be or is. It's all about the timeline, and you've got to craft the timeline and what you want to do. Right? If you're listening, what you want to do is figure out what time you want the event to end, and then work backwards.
Wow.
And then work backwards.
I feel like we're getting gold nuggets here.
Oh. I mean, that's just, if you decide, and all fundraising events, that's right, I'm going to say it, all fundraising at an event should be over by 9 o'clock because 9 o'clock is people's typical wall. And you're like, no, Scott, you're crazy. They were there dancing until 11 o'clock. Yes, but they weren't seated, right? They were up dancing, they were up moving, and the blood was flowing. And if you've got the people in the seats, you need to be over by 9 o'clock. You need to be over by 9 o'clock. There you go. Hint of the year. Right there. Over by 9 o'clock. And people are like, oh, you want to go home early. I don't care. Right? Once I'm started, it doesn't matter to me. But what matters is the people in the seats. You're philanthropist. Give them what they want. Because I firmly believe that people decide the night of the event on the drive home about coming next year. That's when they're going to.
Yeah.
They're going to decide right then. If they had a good time, right?
Yep.
And better yet, and you know who else we should bring? And they throw out their friend's name. We need to make sure that Charlie and his wife are going to attend.
Yeah.
Right? And when you do that, now you're building. Now you're building.
Yeah.
And it's all about that, And it's the three, did it start on, so the 3 keys. All right.
Love it.
All right. Here you go. The 3 questions are, if you say yes to these 3, you had a great event. I don't care how much money you raised. It doesn't matter. If you say yes to these 3 questions, you had a successful event. Did it start on time and did you stay on your timeline? Was checkout and registration easy? Did you have fun? If you say yes to those 3 things, you had a successful event. Right? There's no lines at check-in, right? Or if they are, they're very short, and you get them in. And more importantly, there's no lines. You've made arrangements so that there's no lines at checkout, right? You bought an item, and you're standing in line, and the people that didn't buy anything are walking out the door. You suddenly are punishing the person who supported your charity. So make it easy. Figure it out, whatever it is. Figure it out and make it easy. Did you have a good time? For heaven's sakes, doesn't have to be yuck fun, but it has to be pleasurable. And you have to feel like you made a difference because you did. You have to make people feel like they made a difference because they did. And did you stay on your timeline? Friends, let me tell you what. There's never been a fundraising event that at some point didn't lose time during the timeline. And the key there is if you lose 5 minutes and then you lose another 5 minutes and then you get delayed another 5 minutes, you are now 15 minutes behind. And you're like, well, that's not a big deal. Yes, it is, right? You don't want people to feel rushed, but remember, our goal is to be over by 9 o'clock. Well, if your 9 o'clock suddenly turns into 9:15, which is going to turn into 9:20, and all of a sudden you have hit the bewitching hour. Right? And people want to go home. The horse smells the barn. Yeah. Right? And you can't let that happen. So you want people to be energized when it's over, not going on the other direction and going down because they waited too long.
Yep.
So that is absolutely critical. So one of the and a trend in fundraising events is to start earlier.
Yeah.
It's to start earlier. It used to be like 6 o'clock. Well, a lot of places now start at 5:30, but it's all about the end. Nobody ever said, gosh, I wish that event had lasted longer. They've never said that. That. All right. So we've got to be careful with that. And one of the things that you have to worry about with your timeline. Now, remember, we just lost 15 minutes, right? Early. Well, you know who else lost 15 minutes? The chef. Right? Your food, because events are all about timeline of food. So if you're 15 minutes, that means the food has potentially sat there for 15 minutes and had the opportunity to get cold. Plus, you didn't feed people for 15 minutes. Plus, you've made the chef very angry because they were to the second of everything. And now you're saying, wait, don't serve because we had something that caused us a hiccup, a trip, if you will, right? And it's going too late. So it's not about that time. It's about when you end, and it's about serving the people. That's so important because,
wow. I feel like we just got a master class. I feel like the biggest thing you and I met, it was a little less than, maybe it was a week ago, and I was like, we really have to get you in the studio and get on a podcast because there's this containment that just needs to be let out, and we are barely scratching the surface. And you just let out masterclass wisdom. And I love this because there's psychology mastery you've shared. There's physiology mastery you've shared. There's leadership mastery you've shared. And we've talked about the idea of we're collaborators, not followers. It's ours, not theirs. Or my charity versus the charity, that kind of thing. Anything else you want to share? Go ahead.
Oh, gosh, I could go on forever,
Yeah.
So here's the thing with fundraising events, and people say, Scott, you know so much. Look, I eat, sleep, and breathe fundraising auctions. They're my focus. They're what I think about all the time, right? I'm a little bit tunnel vision, but that's what I think about. That's what I do. And luckily, I've got a research facility called fundraising auctions. If I do 3 or 4 a week,
you get feedback and you iterate.
Oh,
and you incorporate. Plus, the other thing I've noticed with you is that there isn't, and you shared this earlier in our work today, there isn't the cookie cutter approach in your mind. You're always looking for the creative new thing. I saw this in major ways when COVID hit. and you immediately went live. And I would say you set the trend, because you didn't just go live. You went live in a very magnificent way. And it's a testament to your personality to be bringing in new. Even before our show today, you shared, I'm very coachable. So there's an aspect to your realm that is always, I like to think of it in two buckets. One is you're growth oriented and you're ambition minded. So let's see what I can learn from this. Let's see how we can incorporate this thing in this other industry over here and bring it in, and let's give it a test and measure it. Okay, now that's part of our collective as we go forward. Any other shares on this superpower of yours?
Oh my goodness. Well, let's talk about, can we talk about virtual?
Let's talk virtual. It's time to talk virtual.
Well, when the pandemic hit, right, we sort of saw it coming, but we had no idea it was going to be so impactful.
Yeah.
To fundraising events, because fundraising events are public, right? And everybody comes and everybody feels good and there's all the energy and synergy in the room, when all of a sudden it was like no public gatherings. So we can't gather in public. So let me scratch my nose. So what do we do?
Right.
Wow. And it was like, nobody knows. And nobody had done a virtual fundraising event. Right. Yeah. And one was coming up, and they agreed to go virtual. Thankfully, they agreed to go virtual, and I immediately went to work. And there were two fundraising events held on Saturday out in Oregon. Okay, friends of mine out in Oregon, and we were going to have ours, which is going to be the first one east of the Mississippi. Wow. Yeah. I mean, they talk about uncharted waters. I mean, this was total pioneering. So almost like was it Apollo 13, where they had an issue and they dumped out, the tray of what they had for a toolbox, right? Which is a roll of duct tape and something else.
Yeah, I remember
They
that.
said, okay, take what you have and fix the problem. Right? They asked the scientists on the ground so they could explain to the people in the capsule. All right. Well, that's how this was. What do we have that works? And, and I had, I think it was 9 days. And, I just totally dove in. My nephew came down for spring break, right? He was in college up in Kentucky, and he comes down for spring break, and I think I saw him twice.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just locked in my office. And there's a lot of dead-end roads.
Yep.
Right? You go down a dead-end road and then you're like, whoa, that won't work. And so you have to back up and try another and try another and try another. So we knew that electronic bidding had to come into play. I knew I had a great audio-visual team called Harmon's, which happens to be right here in Fort Myers.
Yep.
And my first call was to Chris saying, Chris Knapp. I said, Chris, this is what I want to do. Is this possible? And Chris's response was perfect. He goes, yes, we can do that. It'll be a whole lot like we have virtual meetings for condo associations.
Got it.
So, all right, now we've got a platform.
Yep.
Now we need a bidding platform for people to bid, and away we go.
Yeah.
And we did in the first one, and we were successful.
Yeah.
And then of course we refined it. And then Harmon's was kind enough to build a studio for
I
me
saw
to
that.
use. Oh,
that was amazing.
Harmon's Audiovisual in Fort Myers, Florida. They go all over the country. They're the best. And they did it for me.
Yeah.
And I'm forever grateful. Because it really helped us. And here was the thing about virtual events. And I had, colleagues of mine, I'm pretty involved all over the country with fundraising auctioneers, and they're like,
at a training at a peer level.
Yes. I mean, I teach, I have taught at the Benefit Auction Specialist designation class for the National Auctioneers Association, the Benefit Auction Specialist class by the National Auctioneers Association, which is held in Vegas every year. And so I've taught that many times. And what we're doing is we're training fundraising auctioneers how to be better fundraising auctioneers. And it's been amazing. And, we get people from North America, coming in for that.
Can we just celebrate you and your superpowers? Here's the thing. You're innovative. When, like you shared, Apollo 13, there was issues, and that happened when we had to go virtual, And you were like, okay, let me lock myself in a room and sort this out. And I had to go down a bunch of dead ends. I had to iterate, I had to test, I had to measure, I had to remove and improve over and over and over again to serve the need. Then you brought in a great team. And on top of it all, you've got a teacher mindset. We'll get into your history in a little bit about your teaching days and that kind of thing, which is really cool. I can't wait to unpack that. But there's a huge stack here. It's different than just hiring someone to do something, to help with a event or an organization or whatever that may look like. It's this complete package of superpowers that you're bringing to the table. And I love the fact that you really dispelled the myth right out of the gate about cookie cutter. Every event is its own, and we have to get into the psychology and the essence of even the culture of the organization in that context. And these are just some things I want to make sure we call out. I also want to share, if you want Scott's magical input, championauctioneer.com is the place to go to schedule your strategy call, essentially, right?
Absolutely. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. We want to make sure we're clear on the call to action here. If you're like, okay, I get it. The guy's amazing. He's got a history. He knows what he's doing. We need some new ideas. We need some new innovation. We need some new ways. We need to think about amplifying the amount that we bring in, whatever it is. Championauctioneer.com. Get on it. Hit the button. Rock it out. That all said, any thoughts about how we just celebrated the man? That'd be you.
Well, I'm very fortunate. All right. I'm the first person to admit it. I am very fortunate to do what I do.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, I found, it depends on how you want to pronounce it, but if I found my niche or found my niche, whichever you want to say, I'm very fortunate that I found it.
Yes.
Right. Had no idea it was coming. I just wanted to be an auctioneer because I grew up going to auctions.
Yeah.
My mother
Let's take a moment here and go right back in time. This is the big question. The seed of this. Now, I'm painting a little picture here. You're in Kentucky growing up, true?
On a farm, family farm.
In town or area?
Mount Sterling. I'm from Bethel, Kentucky. Population 183 when I'm not there.
I love it. So just paint the backstory here. There's a very parallel story in my world where my grandparents my mom's parents lived very purposefully. And it would be common on a Friday night when I was 6. We lived in Detroit, Michigan. They'd be like, Char, tonight we're going to go downtown to the deaf school and we're going to bring family to the kids that are there because that means their parents can come pick them up. And so in my brain, when I was that young, that's how the world worked. We were caring, we were compassionate, we were of contribution. And so it gives me chills telling you this, but it's the why. At the essence of me, I'm living into the legacy of Bob and Bernice. That's my grandparents' names. Grandma died in 2002, Grandpa in 2009. And every day I feel their spirit. And if I don't help somebody move forward, like just in this context of our podcast, then I feel like I'm not living my truth in a way. And I want to connect.
And you're letting down your grandparents who were so important to you.
That's the magic sauce for me
and your
as
life.
Catalyst. Because you were raised in a way where you have a certain set of, we'll say nature versus nurture. There's a gift that you have to be more extroverted. Maybe it was when you were younger. Maybe you developed it. And then there's a gift that, I like these auctions. Well, how does it look for me to be there? So I'm going to turn it over to you. I just want to kind of paint a frame here of how deep a why can be that fuels us so that this isn't a job. This is who we are at our core. And let's just create magic. And let's move forward. And let's just have fun doing it. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, I grew up going to auctions. We were farmers, right?
Yeah.
So farms sold at auction, and then the equipment sold at auction. My dad also worked at a tobacco warehouse where there were auctions, right? You auctioned the tobacco. He worked at stockyards, and I used to go there. That's another story. But I used to go there during the summertime on Wednesdays. And then my mother had an antique store. So she and my uncle had an antique store, and so they would go to auctions. And so, an auction meant you didn't have to work on the farm, and it was always a social event, right? Well, I'm just all about it. And the first item I ever bought at auction, I was 7 years old. I was in the second grade, and there was a game called Carom, right?
Okay.
It was a board game, right? And this older lady had died, Mrs. Mildred Peters. Anyway, she had died, and I saw this board. Well, we only had one board at home, and I had 2 older brothers. If I have my own board, which was an antique, by the way, if I have my own board, I I don't have to fight them for it, right? I can practice myself or do whatever. So I'm sitting there and they're selling all the equipment. And I was there for the longest time. I'm going to say 2 hours. And I'm standing right beside the item, standing right beside it. People all see me, right? Everybody. And finally, like, I don't know, 2 hours, 3 hours later, it came up and everybody in the wholesale knows that I'm standing beside this carom board. And the auctioneer, of course, he did too. Nice fella named Howard Stone. And he goes, Scott, what do you want to start us on this? And I said, 25. He goes, $25? Of course, I meant 25 cents a quarter, but I said 25. And anyway, he starts it off at 25 and now 50. And of course, nobody in the place was going to bid against me, right? I'm scared to death. Blah, blah, blah. So I got my first item at auction, 25 cents for a carom board.
Holy moly. The thing that I love about your story, there's so many things to unpack with it, but the fact you know all the names of people and you celebrate them and they're part of the identity that you've created.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like pulling characteristics of the auctioneer at the time. I heard you get right into that kind of voice for a minute and then just kind of reliving that piece. And that was your first real foray. It's into that world.
And, and Howard's, there was a lot of great auctioneers that I was around, but he would always let me bid. Because I had a paper route. I made money. So he would always let me bid.
Oh,
right?
That's awesome.
And so I grew up going to auctions. So the auctioneer, even though it wasn't a family business, I always had full appreciation for the auctioneer.
Yeah. Very similar to the way that I was sharing with grandparents and going and being of contribution to others. So there's this other piece to this puzzle. As you're evolving from 7, 8, 9, 10, where did the teacher in you come from? Were you born with that idea that you want to teach and help others, or did it evolve, or what does that show? Because your history, just so we're clear, is that you were a high school teacher, then commercial real estate, then full-time auctioneer. So,
and I was a teacher for 16 years, and
wow, okay, let's celebrate that.
There wasn't.
That's awesome. Can you imagine having you as a teacher? I'd be like, he's my favorite teacher. At the end of, at this point in our lives, we're like, go back to high school and name your favorite teacher. Mine was Mr. Parrish, our German teacher. 4 years with him. I talked to him after. I've been friends with him for however many years that is. A lot of years, decades. Go ahead.
So I didn't know what I wanted to be. Farming was a natural thing, but farming didn't pay very well, right?
Yeah.
And this was in the 70s, so it was sort of declining. So when I decided, to go to college and what I was going to major in, I had a great high school teacher named Tom Osborne who taught industrial arts. Well, I was always there, right? I was taking 1 or 2 classes a year, and when I had a study hall or whatever, I was always there. He was absolutely my mentor. He was phenomenal, just absolutely phenomenal. So when it came time to go to college, not thinking it through, like, well, I'm going to be Tom Osborne, right? So I went to school as an industrial arts major and graduated with an industrial arts degree and taught mechanical drawing, woodworking, that sort of thing. I was young Tom Osborne, right?
Yeah.
And I focused trying to be him. I'd watch what he would do and how he would get people excited because, listen, teaching is sales. That's what teaching is. You're like, what? Like, yes, you've got to sell the student on why they want to learn whatever it is that you're teaching. Boy, it's an absolute sales job.
Yep.
That's what it is. Because if you're not excited about the subject, if you're not excited about the auction, if you're not excited about whatever it is, how do you expect anyone to do more than you? You're not, right? Your leadership is that you have to be out there, right? Letting them be the stars, but you have to be out there. You have to put it out there so that they, your enthusiasm is contagious. Your bidding is contagious. Oftentimes at auctions, I'll go, and did you see how much fun they were having? That's what you need to feel.
Yep. That's it. Wow. And there's a couple big takeaways about what you just shared. One of them is you and I just shared that we have had tremendously amazing mentors in life. Models, role models. There's a 3-tiered system that we teach in high performance. It's called the expert positioning model. And there's the research reporter, That's a person like Napoleon Hill when he wrote Think and Grow Rich. He wasn't the millionaire or billionaire, but he researched and reported on them and their behaviors and their mindsets. Then there's the role model, the person doing the work. But then there's this coveted position, the results expert. And the results expert is the one who actually generates success with living into this model, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And you're, in many ways, from what you've shared, a results expert cross spectrum. We're talking teacher, we're talking sales, we're talking vision, strategy, and planner. We're talking actual auctioneer in the actual event. And then the other part that I want to make sure we call out too is that you're helping them see around corners they don't even know exist when you're in your strategy plan. Like you've told me the story before where you've gone into places where they've run an event and they've hit this sort of threshold of where they've generated this amount of revenue. And you're like, you're missing a couple key elements here with your particular event. Let me help you see around corners you're not seeing. And you do, and then you help them at a results expert level.
Well, they plateau.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
So they plateau, and that's as good as they're ever going to be unless they change. And change can be it can be better auction items. It can be better, have people that have disposable income that want to invest in the change they want to see in the world, which is your charity.
That's what I'm getting.
And most of the time, it's show flow, right? It's the timeline, it's the show flow, it's the And we can go forever on timeline and show flow. But one of the things with timeline, it is the night of the event. That's really important. But it's also before the event. What is your timeline? When are you going to get everything accomplished? If you think you're going to wait till the last week to get something accomplished, you are messing up, right?
Yeah.
You want the last week to be focused on after you've got, but on audience development for the people that you've already recruited and making sure that everything is going to go off without a hitch. I've seen too many organizations, unfortunately, but the last week they are frantic. They are not getting the proper amount of sleep. They are snapping at everybody. Put a deadline of at least 7 days before the event so that the week of the event, you're able to focus on the fine touches. You're able to focus on the icing on the cake, and you will be rewarded financially because of it. If you're in if you're totally freaked out, you're freaking other people out too.
Yeah.
And remember we talked about having a good time?
Yep.
Well, because you're sleep deprived, right? Because you're creating havoc.
Yeah.
People feel that.
Yeah.
They sense that. If you are calm, and more important than anything is grateful, you need to be grateful for the people who are attending your event and are supporting your organization and are becoming philanthropists. Be grateful. What's the difference between entitlement and privilege? Privilege is good. Entitlement is not good. And what's the difference? Gratitude. Your parents may have had a lot of wealth, right? And that you're getting to reap the benefits of. And if you're grateful for that, you're a nice person to be around. If you are if that person, not you, of course, but if that person simply feels entitled, well, of course I have X amount of dollars. They're not grateful. It's not gratitude, and it shows.
And you have this front and center, I'm certain, with probably every major event you do, of people who are on both sides of that, different people in that realm. So you're seeing this first and foremost at a psychological level. And there's a read on that piece, and it plays a role in maybe the correspondence or the way that you interact with the different people in the audience or whatever that might be.
Yeah, and remember the people that are in the audience, those rich people, they give away their money. Like, look, just because you're rich doesn't mean you want to give it away.
Yeah.
But that's the difference that you're going to see in the world. And so I get to deal with a lot of people that are, that are very philanthropic and are very giving, and they made their money, but they want to see it go to do great things. You can sit on your money and don't attend anything, and you're just sitting on your money, and one of these days, someone's going to inherit that money.
Yeah.
So why not sow the seeds and strategically give your money to organizations that do great things. And let's talk about strategically give your money. People will give money to charities if they know the charity is going to be a good steward of their money. Nobody wanted to shovel money down a hole and watch it go away or watch it be frivolously spent. No, if I give money, I want to know that it's going the right direction. It's going to the right people. They're not wasting the money. They're strategically making other people's lives better. Yeah. That's so important.
So I want to circle back on mentors. Your parents, the teacher you recommended, grandparents, uncles, aunts. What was the lay of the land to help formulate you as a human and have this perspective that you have that's just, in my opinion, is incredibly purposeful, but magnificent. You have a magnificent perspective of humans, and you've directed it to the world of really helping people build organizationally, build the funds to do the good work that they do. Where did this emanate from, or how did that show up in your life?
Oh, that's a great question. Now you're making me think about it. But, I grew up in a small town, 183, right?
Yeah, it was a general vibe, care, compassion, and love.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
and you were related. You went to church on Sunday, and you were related. I used to count, right? There'd be 70 people there, and I'd be related to 45 of them.
That's awesome.
So, and the town next door, right? It had a population of 400, and that was about 5 miles away. And the one down the road, that had a population of about 20. So, I mean, it was small. It was rural living in Kentucky, and everybody was a farmer.
Gotcha.
Right? Basically, everybody was a farmer. And farmers always look out for each other and do whatever is necessary. I mean, someone needs something. I was once upon a time, so hay, right? Hay shouldn't get rained on. I don't know why I'm telling this story, but hay shouldn't get rained on. And I'm driving down a road. I'm in college, I think. I don't know, or high. Anyway, I'm driving down a road in a town that, I don't know the people. I happen to have my gloves in the truck, in my car, which helped me out a lot. And the rain was coming. Yeah. And there was a small family out, and they were just working really hard trying to get hay onto a wagon. And it was mom and dad and a daughter. Well, they were having a hard time lifting the bales. So I just pulled the car over to the side, jumped over the fence, and helped them load up the bales of hay before it rained. And then, of course, right when we were about finished, it rained.
Yeah.
I have no idea who those people were. They thanked me and wanted to pay me. And I'm like, no, I didn't stop by for a job. I stopped by to help. And
there's a huge piece to this puzzle. When we look at so many people in life, I'm going to pull out for just a minute. There's typically people get upset and they get in the trench around an issue. Somebody said this, somebody said that. It isn't an issue. It's a value conflict. When we get to the point of what you just shared, that you were driven and raised on and the community supported, care, compassion, unconditional love is what I'm going to say, courage, and taking of action. Like those are 5 different values. And you just step into it. It's just part of your fabric. And I just want to make sure we really pull that out, because that's a huge piece to what you bring into everything. Is there's a level of care. There's a level of, and I'm going to share this, and there's not a lot of people that carry this. And when I say it, you'll see it. Presence and engagement. Full focus. Like you and I right here, right now. It's just you and me, and we are in full engaged presence. But it is a gift in the digital divide. I call it the digital divide. Everybody's in front of a phone or a tablet or whatever. Or they're just in their own mind. But there's a piece to this value structure that is full presence and engagement on top of care, compassion, unconditional love, and so on and so forth. So just want to make sure we kind of pull those values out. And it sounds like to me that the community and the related cities or towns, villages, whatever they were called, they all emanated these values. And it was just take care of each other and do this. And this is the fundamental foundation for some of your, we call it the nature versus nurture conversation and coaching and so on. It's like, this is what I was born with. This is what I was raised with. Similar to my grandparents and me going to downtown Detroit, deaf school. And this is a huge part of the fabric of me. Now I'm doing stuff with it in the world, or in some instances, people aren't. And they have that particular piece. Any thoughts, takeaways with his values? Or
absolutely. Well, one thing when you live in a small town, you can't afford to tick anybody off, right? So you have to be easy to get along with.
I love it.
Because there's always that one person, and they don't last there, that long.
Yeah.
So everybody's kind of been there, and everybody, and they help each other. I mean, they've all got their own businesses. In this case, they all had their own farms, right? Yeah. And they hired people and worked for people, etc. But when something needed to be done, you just stopped and you did it. You helped people. Changing a tire, for heaven's sakes, that's a no-brainer. But whatever you can do to get the people back on the road, back to helping others, helping the lady carry her groceries, something as small as that, but it still makes a big difference. You're just helping people. Yeah. You don't do it because it makes you feel good. You're doing it because it helped them.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh, that's so good.
And that's, I'm a big believer in helping them.
But
you know why? Because people have helped me. I've had a lot of mentors in my life and people that just went out of their way to help me. And it's always fun is when someone has helped you or you've helped somebody and they didn't even know you did it.
That's
right.
The magic sauce.
Yeah. But you watch it work.
Yep. That's the magic. The magic of life.
It truly is. It truly is. It's when I was teaching, right? So you teach a concept or how to do something. And then I always got a charge out of this to hear them teaching someone else what they had just learned and to watch the growth that was going on, with the student who was teaching, but also the one who was receptive. Because, we tend to, our peers, right? Yeah. We tend to accept peer help more than we do, the old school teacher, even though I was probably 25 at the time.
Yeah.
But still, that makes a big difference. And, in teaching for a second, why do you teach? You teach for the light bulb. And you're like, what in the world do you mean? I mean, when you teach something and people are confused and then they're like, aha, that's what you live for. That's what you live for. And I'll never forget one particular student. And anyway, I was teaching and he was a little bit of a ne'er-do-well, right? It was a work experience class and you never knew. He could be sleeping or trying to sleep and whatever. And all of a sudden I asked a question, right? A rhetorical question. And he answered and he was correct. And I said, Josh, that's fantastic. I was just kind of surprised. And he said something that will resonate with me forever. He says, well, Mr. Robertson, if you like something, you'll learn it.
Chills over here, gold.
I mean, I was like, I had taught for 15 years and hadn't thought of that concept, had never said that. And he was just matter of fact. He goes, if you like something, you'll learn it.
Gold. Mentors from a student. A mentor.
Yes.
From student. And I love the fact that you shared that story because mentors don't need to be Tony Robbins or Zig Ziglar or these different people that have been in my lives. They can be just the people on the street and you're listening for the opportunity to grow. It's a different level of presence and engagement when you listen just to the opportunity, maybe in an event for you where you're like, oh, there's somebody over here. My spidey senses, so to speak, pick up on it. There's some wisdom nuggets, wisdom exchange that I need to have with that person because there's something there. I'm picking up on it. And I think you're of that caliber in that regard. I know I am. When I'm with people and I'm like, oh, of all the people here, I need to go spend time with that person because I feel like there's some wisdom nuggets that I can gain or some wisdom exchange through that lens. Any thoughts with that?
Well, several. One is feeling, right? What you just said. And I feel it, hopefully not every event, but a lot of events is I can feel when the energy level is leaving the room because remember the show flow?
Yeah.
We messed up on our show flow. We are now behind and we should start. And I mean, it can be minutes to capture, right? To change the chapter to the fundraising portion. And boy, you feel the energy leaving the room, right? Most people don't feel that, but I've been doing this long enough that
you have an empathetic superpower in that regard.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Don't let the energy leave the room. And it's usually because you are late, right? They don't look at their watch. They just have that feeling. And boy, when that feeling happens, my job then is to jump on stage when my opportunity is to jump on stage and bring them back. But it's harder to bring them back if you never let, if you hadn't let them go in the first place, you wouldn't have to bring them back.
Yeah.
You would just take what you're doing and expand on it.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, when the energy's leaving the room, oh my goodness. You can
Any
feel it.
tidbits on how to bring the energy back? Any magical sauce?
Yes. Well, first of all, you have to have permission, right? It has to be your turn. But the whole thing is about presence. When you talk about presence, but the whole thing about presence, when you were in school, the little bitty 5 foot tall, 110 pound female, right, could control the big football player, right? Excuse me, the big football player, and the 6'4" football coach weighing in at about 220 pounds and strong, could be run over. And it's all because of presence. You have to have presence. Because if you have presence, that little 5 foot, 110 pound teacher didn't have to say a word, right? They didn't yell at people. They just stood there and looked. And you knew when you got that look, okay, I need to sit down. I need to stand down. But the presence, I use presence all the time. And, lots of times with presence is silence, right?
Yeah.
You're there. And then people realize they need to focus in. I mean, yes, you're going to be excited and all that things, but if you need to, just presence. And it's the same presence that teachers use to their advantage on a regular basis.
So the interesting thing is I went to this event, Brendan Burchard, he's the guy that built the High Performance Institute. I'm a coach for that since 2013, high performance coaching. He had an event called World's Greatest Speaker Training. And in that event, we had Bo Eason, who is a theatrical coach, essentially, and Roger Love, who's the world-renowned vocal coach. He's coached like movie stars, Joaquin Phoenix for the Johnny Cash movie. He coached him how to sing and the whole thing. He's coached like rock stars like Def Leppard, Joe Elliott, lead singer. He's kind of, I think, and maybe Poison. He's coached a lot of people. He was in there. And then Brendan kind of tied it all together with the message and the meeting piece of it. What Bo Eason shared, this is the way he did it, exactly what you're talking about. He came out, Brendan's like, and here's Bo Eason. And Bo Eason comes out on stage and he didn't say a word for about a minute. And that minute felt like an hour. All he did is he stalked the audience like a lion. He'd go over here and he'd look. He'd go over here and he'd look. And my dad and I were there and we were in the middle of 800 people in the middle of the room. And we felt like we were getting attacked. I'm looking at my dad. He's looking at me. I'm like, what's happening right here? And he just commanded presence and engagement. No verbal, just eyes. And he brought the energy into this. People were, in your brain, you're thinking, am I going to be attacked? Because there's a primal part to that. And two, what's he going to do next? And that was the first time that I experienced what you just shared, is the complete command and control of presence with no words, but just sheer body language. So I know for a fact that you master this. You have your own methodology and your own mastery of this. Anything you want to share with that?
Well, and I don't even know how I do it, right?
You just evolved it over time and it worked.
It just evolved. And part of it probably came from teaching school, had a little bit to do with it. My whitewater rafting friends, I'll say it's because of, trip leading. That means you're in charge of the trip, and it's possibly sold, but it's evolved and it's helpful. And again, it really comes back to helping organizations raise the money they need to continue their good work.
Yeah.
And that's what you need. That's your purpose.
Yeah.
Right. And that has to be your focus. And so before a fundraising event, I am focused. You can ask my wife, you can ask the people that work with me, leave Scott alone. Right. And lots of times right before an event, I tell people where I'm going, but I just disappear.
Yeah.
And all I'm doing is I'm getting my head straight. I'm getting my head wrapped around what we're about to do.
Yep.
So when the light comes on and I'm doing what you're talking about, exceeding presence, is I need to get my mind right.
Yep.
I need to get my mind right. I don't think about anything else. I don't worry about anything else. When I'm on stage, I am on stage.
Yep.
And why am I there? I'm there to raise money to help people continue their good work. That's what they depend on me for.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And lots of times at fundraising events, people will come up to me, Scott, this is our biggest fundraiser of the year. We're totally depending on you and your performance to generate the income. Well, like people say, well, that's a lot of pressure. I want the pressure. Put it right there. That's my purpose. Put it right there. I don't shy away from it. I embrace that energy. I absolutely embrace that energy. I embrace what we're there to do, and that's why they have me there.
Yeah.
I hear lots of times, Scott, you were fantastic tonight. And it's like, look, you don't pay me to do a mediocre job, right?
That's it.
You brought me into this event, and it doesn't matter what I get paid. I did an event, all right, I had two huge events on Saturday.
Yeah.
And on Sunday, a friend, we had a little fundraiser for her at a small event.
Yeah.
And then last night we had another. So I'm pleased to say I think I've raised $7 million in the last 3 days.
I just think of the actual effect on the planet for those organizations to the world, and that there's so much to be thankful for and grateful for of that work that you do in those particular organizations or those particular needs. And it's just so amazing to hear that piece of this. I don't ever connect. I'm not the money guy, so to speak. I'm the purpose. Like money is the conduit to get the purpose laid out.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Let me back up and then I'm going to talk about the conduit. So actually it wasn't 7 million. As I'm doing the math in my head, it was $8 million in the last 3 days.
That's amazing.
And one of those events raised 8,000 plus 12, raised $9,200. Not $1 million, $9,200.
Yeah.
And I was as focused to raise that $9,200, which way exceeded their expectations at a small event as I was for those $1 million events. Now, the $1 million events, obviously, I spent a lot more time with. I just kind of got called into this one with a week to go. But it doesn't matter to me what I'm getting paid. I don't even think about that, right? And I do get paid. But I wasn't thinking about that. I was thinking about what can I do to make this the most impactful for the audience so that we can raise the money to help make other lives better.
I love this share because there's this ideal that I've always worked. Well, not always, but in the last 30 years, I've really got clarity around purpose over profit. That doesn't mean that we're not going to be profitable. In the context for nonprofits, it means generate revenue. But it means that we're going to put our purpose first and profit's going to be a side effect. And I believe that's what you're hitting on. Is that true?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
If you focus on doing your job, money will follow. If you focus on the money, everything's going to go away, right? Don't be focused on that. Focused on what you can do, and the profits will follow.
The part I really want to unpack from what you just shared is focus on what you can do. Zig Ziglar said it, and I can never get his quote exactly right, but he goes, help other people get what they want, and you'll get what you want. And another way of saying it is that get so clear on who you are behaviorally, mindset, your value structure, your life philosophies, your life principles, that is living into what we'll classify as some of your superpowers. And a lot of people don't even know what their own superpowers are. When I meet people, I see it, and I'm like, can I just share 3 superpowers you have? And they're like, really? I have those? I'm like, yeah. And you're really good at it. So if you double down on that and then tie it to this offer or this cash flow kind of scenario, you're going to see success in a different way. I coach a lot of entrepreneurs for the last 30 years. And they're like, that's all I had to do is get clear on one offer and get my heart in it and then just go serve. And they get past the hardest part for most entrepreneurs, especially those leaving corporate, is what I call the 0 to money conversation. It's getting to break even. So I always have the entrepreneurs I work with get the money sorted out in the front end. This is what I need to survive. And then we're going to 2X that and we're going to 5X that. And then we're going to go for the 5X. Now, what are the behaviors and mindset to go for 5X to break even? And then now we're going to step into those behaviors and practice it. Part of that's the sales dialogue.
Oh, of course.
So there's this huge piece to this idea that, and I want to make sure we land that, is that when you get so tied to what you do and you've got the money side worked out, so there's profit is baked into your proposal structure, your vision, strategy, and planning, whatever that is in your world. And then you just go out and be. And the natural line that you share is, hey, you want me to work on that strategy with you? Or do you want to move that forward in an enduring way? Or do you want me to run the event? It's just, and then when you have the personality that you have, it's just a amplification, a magnet. People are like, he did that? I'm coming next year. Is Scott going to be doing an event next year? Yeah, well, I'm in and I'm bringing people. There's a difference. Does it all land as we kind of...
Oh, it absolutely is. And it goes back to, did you have fun?
Yeah.
Right? Do you laugh? Do you, self-deprecating humor when needed, right? Yeah. Whatever it is. One of my favorite lines, and I probably use it too much, but, God put 60, when I can't see something, right? Because it's too far away.
Yeah.
It's not because of my eyesight. It's because we're too far away and the numbers are too small. I work off numbers a lot. And so, with bid paddles. And it's like, God put 60-year-old eyes on a 30-year-old body. And it's just not fair. Well, that's gonna generate a laugh every time, because everyone in that room knows what I'm talking about, and they know I don't have a 30-year-old body, but I do have 60-year-old eyes.
Yes.
So that makes
I love it. The biggest takeaway is that I want to make sure we land for you, or as we think about what we've shared here, is mentors are important. Think about mentors. A lot of people, they had mentors in life and they forgot about them. And then when we bring them back online, they're like, what were the values and the principles and the points that I need to reassess? Many people, it's their grandparents or their uncles or their aunts. It's their family structure, especially people who are 50 or older who had that. There was a definite shift for the 30-year-olds where families weren't as connected as they were, like in your community and mine when I grew up.
Sure.
Farming community for me up in Michigan. There was a difference in terms of the wisdom exchange between older generations and younger. I remember my grandpa when I was 5 giving me a hammer and going, listen, we're going to be building this extension onto our mobile home up in Houghton Lake, Michigan. And I want you to start hammering out these walls, these 2x4 walls. And here's how you do it. And he just showed me, and I'm 5 years old and I'm hammering stuff. And I'm just like, he believed in me. I'm 5, So there was this idea that we really are the mentor, but we also helped the learning process and that piece. The other part is this idea of purpose over profit, and really getting clear on serving with purpose is a big part of the theme, obviously, is getting clear on what can we do that feels extremely purposeful for us, that can be of service to the world. I always think of that in 2 buckets. Improve the quality of people's lives is bucket A, and I'm blessed to do this other bucket as well, to grow purposeful, profitable businesses. Help people grow purposeful, profitable businesses, or in your context, organizations. So we're improving the quality of people's lives, and we're helping people grow their business or their organization. And these 2 things, when you can connect that drive of purpose to a profit center or profit centers, watch out, world. And you lead with that. But I also want to make sure that we narrow this in for people listening. You've got to be really clear on what your organization in your context needs as a bare minimum, we'll call break even, to survive. And then we're going to set that baseline and then just take it from there so that we can really build, funds to have the organization not only survive, but thrive. Any thoughts with that?
A lot of them. So, anyway, people are like, oh, Scott, you do $1 million events. And I'm very fortunate. I think I did 11 events that raised over $1 million, and some of them were multi-million dollars, right? And they're like, but you know what they all had in common? They all started out as a smaller event. They listened to me. We weren't trying to change things overnight, because that's never going to happen.
Yeah.
But they listened to me, and then we grow. The wine festival that we talked about, the Southwest Wine Festival that just raised $3 million, the first year we thought we did really, really well, and we raised $83,000.
Yeah, okay.
And we thought we did really well. And now it's raised, it's raised over $35 million.
Wow. And how many years was that?
That's from 2004.
Okay. So 22 years.
Yep. So 2004. Fantastic. Well, let's talk about that for a second.
A little different.
So most events, have a shelf life of about 7 years.
Ah,
A few people get together and they peak at about the 4th year, and then they get tired, right? And they don't have a continuation plan.
Yeah.
They just think that that's their event and they should keep doing it, and they keep doing it until they're tired of it and they don't want to fool with it anymore. And that's 7 years, and then it just dies. Right there.
Yep.
And you can't do that. You've got to be sustainable.
Yeah.
Right? You've got to set the event up to sustainable. Are you going to still be there 22 years later? Probably not. I am, but they're probably not going to be there 22 years later. But you've got to be able to pass it off. And I say pass it off. Don't drop it in someone's lap and say, here's nothing, do something with it. And it was good when I gave it to you. Well, there's a continuation plan. Have notes.
Yeah.
Pass those notes on, right? So that people don't have to reinvent the wheel, because the wheel's already been invented. And it's round. You don't have to make a wheel round. You know it needs to be round, so make it round.
Yeah,
Make it round.
Exactly. A couple of things that I want to tie back together. One of them is this history of you and the mentorship, and you being a teacher for, you said 16 years. And then at some point, I don't know where this was in the timeline, you went from Kentucky to Florida. So can you talk about this? What was the draw to Florida and the transition to Florida and commercial real estate a little bit, just so we get a little bit more background?
Sure. So this is going to sound really simplistic, because it really was simplistic, right? I wasn't going to college. I didn't think I was going to college. I was going to go out and be an entrepreneur and make money.
Yeah.
And I was talking to a friend of mine, Cynthia Orm.
Okay.
Right. And it was during the summer. We had just graduated from college. And she said, Scott, what are we going to do? And I go, we weren't dating. We were just good friends. We still are. And I said, well, I was thinking about going to college and going and majoring in industrial arts, because she was, hell, I'm going to be the next Tom Osborne. Not thinking I was actually going to be.
Yeah.
And so we both signed up for college. Luckily, we could get in that summer, and that got it started. So now, next thing you know, graduate. Well, where do you want to go? I think I want to go to Florida. I've always gone to Florida for spring break, and had fun, So I came to Florida for a year. I didn't think it was going to be a year. I didn't think it was going to be longer than a year, but heck, it was a soft place to land, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I'd never been to Fort Myers, Florida. And I came down and I ended up interviewing for a job. I thought I was going to settle in Tampa. And I found out, and a friend of mine lived here. I hadn't talked to him in 2 years. And anyway, came down and interviewed. And, well, that was 43 years ago. And I'm still here.
So the math on that, 43 years ago, what plants us in the 80s?
1984.
1984, okay. And so that was the thing. It was just landing in Fort Myers, got an interview, ended up getting the position.
And then after my first year, I'm like, well, that wasn't all bad.
Yeah. And what were you teaching in that first year?
Industrial arts.
Industrial arts, okay.
People called it shop, and now they call it technology education. But we called it industrial arts. And that was good. But I also had a job because I was tired of working on the farm, right?
Yes.
I was tired of working on the farm. So that summer, I was saying I was always looking for a fun summer job, and I finally had the chance to go away.
I think I know where this story
and
goes.
That's when I became a whitewater raft guide. Now,
and you still do that?
And I still, 43 years later, this is my 43rd season coming up.
Oh, let's celebrate that.
Yeah, yeah.
And so that is in
West Virginia.
West Virginia. Gotcha.
Yes. So, I went there. And here was the thing. When we started out, there were 35 of us. Yeah. Did I mention I'd never been whitewater rafting before?
You're looking for a fun summer job. And whitewater rafting sounds good.
And I'm in training to be a guide, and I didn't even know what you called the person in the back of the boat, right? Do you have guides or anything? Yeah, well. So we pulled a little stunt off and got there, and there was 35 people.
Yeah.
And the gentleman stands up, and he goes, well, I want to let y'all know right away, there's 35 of you, and we only need 6. I've never been whitewater rafting before. right? I don't know anything about it. I've never been to West Virginia before.
Yeah.
And here we've driven all night. My buddy Frank Stapleton and I we'd driven all night, spent the night in a VW van, and it was snowing outside when we woke up, kind of cold. And that was that. So Frank and I and the whole group, we're walking down toward the river. We got our paddles thrown over our shoulders. We're wearing wetsuits. And this guy walks up and he goes, "So, I hear you've never been rafting before." I wasn't planning on, making a big deal about it one way or the other, but everybody else seemed to know everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And he goes, "I hear you've never been rafting before." And I said, "No." He goes, "Are you scared?" I said, "No, not really." He goes, "You ought to be." And he walks on. So anyway, that was year one. Made the cut. And
you made the cut.
Believe it or not, made the cut.
Well, I have to say, your personality in that piece of this puzzle is emanating.
And you're right. And you're right. But I didn't know that. I thought they wanted these strong people to, sit in the back of the boat and be fearless. I didn't realize what they really wanted was a personality. Because you can, as a friend of mine says, who owns a rafting company, says, "I can train a monkey to guide a raft. What I need is a personality for people." Right?
Yeah.
Because they're putting their trust in you.
Yeah.
And they didn't come there to have a bad time. They came there to have a great time.
Wow.
Right? Regardless of their levels. And that's what makes it fun, is I get to meet some of the best people. Whitewater rafting. Just great.
The thing that I love about this is that you were like, "I'm going to be a teacher." Well, there's 3 months of the year or ish that I don't have to, let's go see what we can do. That's a fun summer job. And then you land that. And I believe in your history of your character and how you built it, that's helped you round out a lot of being around people that in a fearful state, which can relate, as you were sharing earlier, to being the best auctioneer, is that you're helping people. They're like, "I'm not going to put a paddle up," or whatever, but you're like, "No, I got this. I'll work it." And there's that, what we call that follower effect, where I'm not going to be the first one, but let's build a rapport to get in and make that happen. So I'm seeing some connection point with the whitewater rafting and the way that you handle people in a state to get them on board and have them feel that comfort. And I just feel like if I was a younger gentleman and I didn't know you and you were my wood shop teacher, and then I went on a whitewater raft ride with you, I'd be like, "This is the best. I love this guy. He's one of my biggest mentors," which is true for me now, by the way. You're a big mentor for mine, and you know that. The big thing, though, is that we really get in and make it fun. And we really aim to bring full presence and engagement and joy to the experience. And that's not just whitewater rafting. That was with your teaching work. That was with your auctioneer work. And any other things that you encounter in that regard. Is that true?
Absolutely. It is true. And I've got to shout out to my wife, who came whitewater rafting as a guest once upon a time in 1986 or 85. And
that's how you met her?
That's how
I was going to
ask. And she's been a whitewater raft guide ever since as well.
Wow.
Right? So she still guides.
So the serendipitous connection.
Oh, yeah.
Of that.
Oh, yeah. And I mean,
So if you unpack that, was it just... you were the guide for that ride, and then afterwards, hey.
Afterwards, we, they said, "Where should we go to dinner?" And I made a suggestion, right, for a local place, and I just happened to attend there myself, and that got it started.
Origin story. Shout out to your lovely lady.
Oh, she's great. She's great.
Out. What a sweetheart.
And Mary at the auctions. Mary's a math major, right? She has her doctorate. She has her PhD. And it's a math teacher, and she can add numbers up like nobody's business. I mean, she's a calculator without using a calculator.
Yep.
And she says, "Scott, it's only math." But, if you've just raised a significant amount of money, one of the things that everybody in the room wants to know is, how much did we just raise? Because people want to be on a winning team, right? And if you announce that amount, people feel like they're on a winning team. Plus, I'm getting sidetracked. But plus, the day after the event, when people say, "Hey, you went to so-and-so last night. How was it?" They're not asking you how was the food. They're not asking you how was the decorations. They're asking you how much money did you raise. That's what they want to know. And if you don't tell them how much you raised, honestly, don't exaggerate. Whatever you do, don't exaggerate. You're better off being a little bit low than a little bit high, right? I like to think of it as the $20 bill in your jeans pocket. You put your jeans on, you reach down, and there's a $20 bill. Well, that's found money. That feels good. Hey, Charlie, give me $20.
Yeah.
That has a whole different feel, doesn't it?
Yeah.
All right. Well, that's kind of the same thing. So
Gotcha.
be a little, if you're going to err on the low side.
Yep.
Err on the low side. Of course, Mary doesn't make errors. And
well, that's the magic of what's going on here is that there's this piece of you're both teachers. There's that piece to this, which I think is really amazing in that regard. Because as a teacher, especially the kind you and Mary have been, there's this drive to really get people to have the light bulb. Yeah. And there's that piece to this. Then there's her helping with the math side of these to really get that number out to help them feel like they're the winning team. Yeah. There's just a lot of synergy.
And let's say I'm just throwing out a number, but there's 500 people in the room.
Yeah.
Mary is doing the math on a clipboard. She's not at a table. She's doing the math on a clipboard, right, with multiple pages that get flipped over, whatever. She says, I add as I go, but whatever. That I'm not good at that. I'm not good at it. That is not my job. Yes. Right. My job is to be the auctioneer because I really am not good at being an auction assistant. So Mary is doing that, and she's doing the math in front of 500 people. Now, if you think math is innocent a problem, try doing math. I don't care if it's addition with 4 people looking over your shoulder. All of a sudden, it feels a whole lot. Well, imagine 500 looking over your shoulder, right?
Yeah.
And with math, you're either right and perfect or you're wrong.
Yes.
You didn't carry something. Yeah. So anyway, Mary does that in addition. It's all the auction assistants that I have the fortune of working with. And you know what I found? I'm totally off the topic now, or totally around. But you know what I find? The people that work with me as auction assistants, and of course, they grow, they mature, they whatever. But I love teachers. Maybe it's because I'm a teacher, but teachers tend to make the best. Right? And I like elementary school teachers. You know why? Because their penmanship is always great. Wow. It's always spot on.
Such a great takeaway. Very, very cool. So, okay, paint the frame. You've met Mary. Seem to have an admiration for each other. Then how does it work where you come back to Florida to teach, or what's the next step?
Well, we met, and she was in town locally, right in the whitewater rafting area.
Okay.
And she was writing competency tests.
Okay.
And so she was there, and they brought people in from all over the state of West Virginia. She was teaching in West Virginia at the time, and they got together. So I'm like, well, hey, why don't you come back and go whitewater rafting again and bring your friends?
Yeah.
And And anyway, so she went rafting 3 times in 2 weeks.
Okay.
And things were pretty good. And then, we went our separate ways.
Okay.
And then we connected via the phone. And before you know it, it was pretty well decided that, we were exclusive. And even though we had a long distance relationship, we made it work.
Yeah.
Wow. And then that summer, even though we never really dated, our third date was during the next summer.
Gotcha. So you really got to know each other over the phone in between the summers.
Yes.
Sounds like.
And went on a cross-country trip. Now,
that's a great
We don't
way to
really
figure
know each other except via the phone, and we went on a cross-country trip, and we were gone 32 days, right, in a little blue Toyota pickup truck. And we spent 13 of those days on whitewater rafting because we took a raft with us. And we drove all the way and left from San Diego and came back to West Virginia. Mary packed up her stuff because we'd already gotten her the job. She packed up her stuff, and we drove to Florida. So,
wow.
Yeah.
I always say there's no better way than to figure out if somebody you're dating is to get their real personality come out than get in a canoe that has rapids. But this is even better.
Yes.
Because in Michigan, up in the lower part of the Upper Peninsula, the Sabo River is a pretty, in time when you canoe, it's got some rapids and trees. And I've taken people on that ride, and they're like, I didn't see that side of you ever before, your personality. I'm like, it's a great way because it's 3 hours. And after 20 minutes, you're letting your guard down, whatever you want to call it.
Well, I always say, I'm jumping all over the place. Sorry about that. But how is auctioneering like whitewater rafting?
Yeah.
They're very similar, right? Because when you're whitewater rafting and you're dropping in at the top, your focus is on that rapid. It's not on telling a joke or doing whatever, or people's feelings, right? I mean, you care about their feelings, but your total focus, you care about their feelings, but they're going to feel a whole lot better if they're still in the boat at the bottom of the rapid, whatever that takes, than if they came out and were having a good time, right? Or having a yuck good time. So when you start, you're focused, right? And your direction, and you've got to, I mean, we're talking class 4, class 5 whitewater. So, it's serious. And then as soon as it's over, boom, then you step back and you let everybody do their thing. And then when you go to the next rapid, you're focused again.
For people who are like me, who are like you when you went to this job, the different classes, what's the range? Class 1 through
So rapids are rated on a scale of 1 to 6.
1 to 6,
depending upon the penalties involved in running them, not necessarily the thrill of the ride. Niagara Falls is a class 6, right? It's unrunnable except by a team of experts, and I always say, and we're not experts, right? But it's,
Gotcha.
Yeah, but it depends
so 4
on
or 5 is pretty intense.
Yeah, very. It requires it requires maneuvering, a lot of potential for swims, a lot of, just a lot of chances to mess up. And I mean, you can think you're right on. Whoa, I'm upside down.
Yep.
That's not what I was expecting.
Yeah. Well, it's a really interesting part of how connection this is to the auctioneer work. The other part I want to make sure we piece together here is you and Mary comes down. She's got teaching here. And then at some point, you decide teaching isn't the thing, or it is a thing, but I'm going to go into commercial real estate. Did you make a full turn into that? Or
yeah, well, I found out, I always thought you ask about how I got into auctioneering. Well, I always wanted to be an auctioneer, but I thought you had to go to Missouri to school. So, because that's where the school was, right? I didn't realize there were auction schools all over the country, right? I just knew about Missouri because that's where everybody in my area went. And when I was living on the farm, I couldn't go to auction school because I was working on the farm. And then when I became a whitewater raft guide, I didn't want to take time away from whitewater rafting to go auction school. And I'm talking to my brother, Ray, and, I was saying, I'm not sure what I want to do because I was, I'd already done my thing with teaching for about 10 years. And I was ready to get on and, make some money doing something. And Ray says, well, what we ought to do? We ought to be auctioneers. And I'm like, aha.
Brotherly.
So I thought about that.
Light bulb.
And light bulb moment. So I thought about that, and I came home from the first day with students, right? And I'm like, I love the students. First day. I love the students, but, maybe there's a better way.
Yeah.
And so I think, I know, I want to be an auctioneer. I'll go find an auction house to go work for, right? That I can, learn the trade. Well, I flipped open the Yellow Pages. Remember what those were?
Oh, yeah.
So I flip open the Yellow Pages, and I don't find, I find a few auction houses, but I see this little bitty ad. I mean, little bitty. As cheap as you could get, I guess. Anyway, it's at Florida Auctioneer Academy. And I'm like, there's a school in Florida? No, I don't impulse buy anything, right? Yeah. I mean, if I'm going to buy a pen, I'm going to compare them, right?
Yep.
I call them up and I say, hey, when does class start? And they were nice enough that they allowed me to do, it's 8 days, and it's, I was able to do 2 weekends and then another weekend to get me to the 8 days that I needed.
Wow, okay.
Yeah. And so they let me do the first and the last, and then I did the part in the middle. And so that happened.
Wow. And just the timeline-wise, what year was it?
That was 94.
94, okay.
That was 94. And so I did that. And so in Florida, they used to give the test twice a year. The reason that's important is that when my second class finished, they gave the test on Monday. Well, you had to have applied with a completed certificate of school, but to be able to get into the test. So there was a full 6 months that I was unable, right, to be an auctioneer, to take the test, because if you don't have the test. So the only thing that you could do is you could do fundraising auctions and not get paid for it.
Okay.
Okay. Well, if you don't use it, you lose it, right?
Yep.
So I'm like, what can I do? What can I do? And I'm driving at Bayshore Road here in North Fort Myers, Florida.
Yeah.
And I see a little sign up by a church, and it says they're going to have an auction, in about a week's time.
Yeah.
At this church on Bayshore. I pull in.
Yeah.
And I asked, they said, no, we don't have an auctioneer. I just figured this lady, very nice lady. And she says, I just figured I'd do it. I go, well, I'm here to help if you want. That was my first auction. Oh, that was my first charity auction, right?
Yeah.
So I've sold lots of other things too, but I quit that in 2000. I went full time. I just went exclusively fundraising auctions, but I didn't know fundraising auctions were a thing.
Yeah.
I really didn't.
That's amazing how this just demonstrates this quality and characteristic of you to be just open and real with, here's what's life showing me right now. Here's where I can sense this next step for me. Oh, this is new. I've never whitewater rafted. I'm now a guide. Didn't realize there was this fundraising thing. Gonna do it. And then get masterful with it over time. Put in the time, put in the effort. Take notes, assess how well did I do. Increase competency, increase wisdom, increase skill over time.
I'm a total student of the game, and there's never been a book written about fundraising auctions that I didn't read and highlight and underline, especially in the early days.
Yeah.
And then my good friend Kathy Kingston wrote a book called A Higher Bid, and Kathy has written the best book on fundraising auctions. It's now it was before the pandemic. The last time I took one of her classes, and I've taken all of her classes.
Yeah.
So I've taken classes all over the country. I don't let that get in my way. I've taught classes all over the country.
Well, that's the big thing too, is that you've shared and I've shared in my life's history is the best way to integrate is to teach it to somebody else.
Oh,
it's like they call that socialized learning, is where you take what you've heard or learned and then you socialize it immediately. Yes. It's part of adult learning theory.
100%. If you really want to learn something, teach it, because you're going to have to learn. You're going to have to learn in 3 or 4 different directions to be able to explain it so that people can understand. Some people pick it up quick. Some people pick it up slow, and you just have to have the patience to work through the whole thing. Now, you may have just learned the concept yourself, but then you have to be able to teach it. And as I always say, I can teach anything that I know. My problem is I don't know enough.
I love it. So the final connection point is this idea from into commercial real estate. So you leave teaching, you got into auctioneer and started to build that skill and competency. And at some point you decided to get part of the...
Well, yeah. I had taught for 16 years and I looked around and went, you know what? You can teach for another 16 years and you're not going to be any further along, because teachers, my goodness, why do we make teachers take a vow of poverty?
Yeah. Oh, right? That's so true.
And that's what we do. And I say I hire elementary school teachers or teachers, to work with me. And it's because they are always hungry for the money.
Right.
Right? They work with me. They make more money than they made teaching that day. But still, they went back and were teaching, today.
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Absolutely.
So that works in my favor. But it's not, is it fair? No. But that's what we do.
So the big part was this transition to auctioneer. Felt passionate about it. That's the next move for legacy creation, profit on the side of that aspect of it. And then where does commercial real estate enter this puzzle?
So a friend of mine, Gary Tasman, who I went to college with, right, and knew, he moved to Fort Myers, in the Fort Myers, Florida, where we're sitting right now, and he started a great commercial real estate agency, and I was his first employee.
Wow. Okay.
Right. And so we did that, and and it was
that's when I met you. You were doing that and transitioning to full time.
A great learning curve. There's a great learning curve to commercial real estate. I think I can do anything, and there was a great learning curve, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And you say profit. You eat what you kill.
Yeah.
You'll learn how to be a better hunter if you're eating what you kill.
Yeah.
Especially if the cupboards feel like they're getting a little bare. And full credit to my wife, Mary, who was teaching and helped us through those years.
Yeah. And there was a sustenance. And there's a side of, I work on a project called cash flow planning for life, which is a principle of cash flow for life. And what we're really hitting on is that principle that there's going to be recurring expenses. What are we doing to match that and exceed that from a recurring income level? And it sounds like Mary and you just working as that team.
Yes, and thankful. I mean, we taught day school, night school, coach, taught afters. We did it all.
Yep. That's the piece.
We did it all. And of course, you got to live within your means. I mean, I used to teach my students, who has more money? The person that makes $90,000 a year, which at the time was a lot, $90,000 a year, but they spend $100, or the person that makes $25,000 a year and learns how to live on 17.
Yes.
And they hear the 90,000, and what's the 90,000? It's like, no, they're losing $10,000 a year.
That's it.
And their money is not working for them at all. Yeah. I used to teach investments, and how, you have to save for a rainy day.
That's it. That's the magic. Well, there's one other area I want to explore as we wrap up our first. How you feeling about this, by the way?
Oh, this is great.
I'm looking at this from what you shared in the first hour. We're at an hour and a half, by the way. And it feels like this.
It does.
There is so many clips, video shorts, principles. You had all these just snapping them off, these principles of life and principles of just what you believe and what you share and these ideas and frameworks. AI will be able to build a guide from your 3-part framework, and it will produce that guide as a downloadable PDF for lead acquisition.
Oh,
AI does all that work just from your transcript of this work. That's the magic of what's happening here. This is legacy in operation, which brings me to the last question here. And I think about this a lot. Just so you have a frame, I'm building a online course, 3-year journey, and it comes with a book. That book will be built at the end of the first year. And it's about the Exceptional Business Playbook. And there's 3 areas to an exceptional business, and you're living into all 3. There's an exceptional vision that builds and really handles and sustains exceptional relationships and exceptional systems. So when you have exceptional vision, exceptional relationships, and exceptional systems, and you iterate all that to always be fresh, always be on point, always be growth-minded and mission-oriented, then you're really on the track and trajectory for an exceptional business. In the model, beyond that, at the very bottom, the 10th area, there's 10 areas, is legacy. Where does this go? What is this when my biology doesn't let me stand, doesn't let me speak? It's just the nature of how our bodies are built. What's left? And I would just love to spend a little time talking about your perspective of the legacy of your work. What do you feel is the legacy of your, and I know you did a rebrand not too long ago, Champion Fundraising Auctions, to have this legacy live on? What's the legacy of your work in your mind?
Well,
there's a couple parts to this. There's the legacy now with what you're doing for each of the people you serve, and then the legacy for the future. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, one of the, yes. So legacy is important,
Yeah.
And everybody, and I teach this, I coach this. Everybody wants to leave a legacy. Think about that, not-for-profits. Everyone wants to leave a legacy. Our job is to help them leave a legacy. If you have an animal shelter, people want to leave. If that's what they're into, they want to leave a legacy. So help them. Yeah. Don't pull back. Help them leave a legacy. Naming rights are a great way for legacy, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And it's also a great profit. But help them do that.
Yeah.
Help them do that. It works. It works. And whatever your charity is, right? Help them leave a legacy, because when it's all said and done, and it's all going to be said and done, is people want to leave a legacy.
Yeah.
So help them do that. Help them do that. But and a friend of mine, right? We talked about her earlier, Kathy Kingston. Kathy Kingston understood legacy as well as anybody I've ever known. Now, Kathy wasn't retired, but when she wrote her book, she basically took 6 months out of her life to write this book, right? A higher bid. And she said, I had Post-it notes all over my house.
Yes.
Right? As she put it together. AI wasn't around then.
Yep.
Or if it was, we didn't know how to utilize it. But she took that and wrote the book. And I mean, she wrote the book in 2019, and it still resonates today.
Yes.
Doesn't mention virtual fundraising auctions because they hadn't been
wasn't a
invented
thing
yet.
just yet.
So, but she was that, and she was all about helping people. So once upon a time, the National Auctioneers Association, they were trying to raise money, but they didn't quite understand how. But you know, they're big real estate auctioneers. There are all sorts of other things and fundraising auctions. You know, people would say, I do fundraising auctions. Oh, really? Because they'd ask me what I did, and I'm the little kid to them. Well, how do you do? You know, well, I do fundraising auctions. Yeah. How many did you do this year? Oh, I don't know. It was a bunch. 3 or 4. I go, well, I've done that many this week, and it's only Thursday. That was a little bit of a smart aleck way of saying it, but it was true. But it was true. So as I like to say, I was a fundraising auctioneer before it was cool. And now times have changed. Yeah. And now those same people, I don't know, 10 years ago or whatever, saying, hey, Scott, how do you get into that fundraising thing? That seems like it's really good. It's like, well, it is, and you can make a world of difference. But I think to answer your question, so legacy is about teaching others how to be better. And if everyone, a rising tide floats all boats. Yep. And if everyone is better at fundraising, then they're going to help more not-for-profits, and they're going to be spread out all across the country, and we're all going to rise together. Yep. Because one thing that has to, not-for-profits have to have money. Yeah. And people ask me, sometimes, hey, I want you to be our auctioneer. I'm like, well, great. They're like, do you charge? Yeah. And I'm like, well, of course, if you don't make a profit, you can't stay in business. I'd be doing something else spending my time. Well, we're a not-for-profit. I go, all I work for is not-for-profits. But let me help you leverage what you have into something that's more meaningful. And my fee won't even be noticeable.
Yeah. The part that I love about what you're sharing is that you brought your expertise in so that it's a true investment on their end, not an expense. And there's a differential there. The investment is you're going to put $1 into me, so to speak, and we're going to bring more than $1 out in terms of your organization. Is that true?
Absolutely. And how many times can you do that? Right?
Yeah.
How many times can you, if I give $1 here and you give me more than $1, how many times can I do it? It's like real estate, right? How many profitable ventures can you have? All of them.
Yeah.
How many losers can you have? Whoa, that's when it gets really tricky. But you have to do that. And so one of the things that I've done for legacy, I think, is because I've been at it so long, it's so funny to hear people use your words.
Yes.
And like music. I taught a class at the National Auctioneers Association in that same year, 1999, that I met Kip Toner. And I taught, using music at your fundraising events. Oh, my goodness. You would have thought I had 3 heads. People thought I was out to lunch. I gave them examples, and they're like, oh. Now, everybody uses music. Yeah. Do they ever say it's the Scott Robertson method? No, they just learned it somewhere. Yep. And it's kind of like competing, I do auctions all across the country, but locally they're like, wow, you're the best there is. And they did that too, or you're the best there is. We're like, oh, I hope so. Right.
Yeah.
They've gotten all their ideas from something I've done and other people have taught them.
Yeah. So there's a big piece to this. So the big picture is, and this is something that I would love we can talk about it now, but we can talk about it out of a podcast. If we capture your frameworks, right? And it could be on a podcast or it could be out of a podcast. We can build legacy through your own series of books, through your own series of not only books for the perspective and mindset, but also your how-tos. And the how-tos are where the premium is. Mindset and perspective can be a front-end book, and the workbook that accompanies it can be the deeper dive. And of course, we can film the course modules for the different things where you can talk and teach on that. You don't have to answer me now, but I just want to be clear that this work we're doing right here, our first session together today, is a big part of your legacy. You've shared so many masterclass type things and I'm just loving the fact that we have this idea of continuing podcast 2, podcast 3. I just want to plant the seed that all these different podcasts can be part of this bigger legacy. mindset, perspective, and then the golden nugget of this, and this is what I teach a lot of the entrepreneurs that I work with who are thought leaders, which you are, is that the monetization path scales on the how-to. Kathy's an example of that. And Kathy has passed away, correct?
Yes.
So I want to just make sure that we celebrate. I was so honored. 2013, she was at the event that you brought me to in Chicago, and I got to do a speech for an hour and a half, whatever that was, and really help use the power of the internet to grow. That was an amazing event. I got a lot of great feedback.
Oh, and
you warned me in advance. You're in a room with 90 people who have attention span like this, so you're going to have to keep them busy. And I'm like, gotcha, man. And I'm like, if people don't walk out halfway or before, I'm doing good, and nobody left. I was like, I think we got this. The feedback was
no,
good.
and let me tell you, Charlie, they were scribbling furiously.
I had the
right
notes.
Oh,
that was awesome.
yeah. And it was funny how you picked out the people who were the stars in the class. Right? You had no idea who they were.
Yeah.
You were there that day and boom, here you go. You didn't talk to them, but you could tell who were the stars in the class without them saying a word because they were too busy writing, scribing, right?
That's it.
But you knew.
The learners. Yeah. The learners are the growth-minded and mission-oriented learners. Big piece to this.
So let's talk about Kathy for just a second.
I just want to make sure that we celebrate that beautiful lady and her life. Go ahead.
So Kathy wrote a book. Right, the book that I have given away, I don't know how many copies. She said, Scott, you're my best salesman. I'm like, well, I'm buying them. So but then anyway, so that was all good. And then she taught a class, and she was from Boston.
Yeah.
And she taught classes all over, but a couple of times she taught one on Fort Myers Beach, and she taught one in Orlando. I think it was so that she'd make sure, because she knew I was busy in the springtime, and to make sure that I was going to attend, but that's neither here nor there. So Kathy teaches a 3-day class in Orlando. Yeah. And people fly in from all over the country because the airport was right there, right? And it was all well and good. And she taught solid for 3 days. Wow. Solid for 3 days. Now, it's in Orlando, which is about 3 hours from Fort Myers. Yeah. So I'm going out. This is before the pandemic. So I'm going, she's talking to people after the class. They're getting clarification. So I'm going to do an Irish exit, right? And kind of slide out the back door because there's my vehicle and go home. And I hear her voice going, Scott Robertson? Sister Mary has called me down, right? She goes, where are you going? I said, well, I've got a 3-hour drive ahead of me. She goes, get over here. I'm going to give you a proper goodbye. Aww. So she gave me a hug and she said, great to be in class, whatever. Anyway, it was great. It was meaningful. And son of a gun, I got a call the next day. Kathy had died in her sleep. So she had given and given and given, right? 3 days in a row. And teaching for 3 hours is a long time.
Yeah.
Teaching for 3 days, and she had great content. When Kathy did...
That's what I remember about just talking with her at dinner. I was so honored to sit with her, and I got to understand her ability to articulate and ability to really inspire through her words.
Yes. Well, so funny that Kathy sat with you at dinner, because Kathy was a great student of the game to see who should she get to know at any organization. And I'm very fortunate. When I first met Kathy, she comes up. We were in a social setting, and she comes up and she goes, Scott, I'm Kathy Kingston. Yeah. Tell me about you.
Yeah.
And that's what got that started. And
that's
we were
amazing.
Great friends. Oh, so may I share another Kathy Kingston? So the National Auctioneers Association needed to raise money, wanted to raise money, but they were trying all sorts of avenues trying to raise money.
Yeah.
And so anyway, the CEO comes to Kathy and I at a conference. She goes, we need help.
Yeah.
Can you teach us how to do it? So Kathy and I, through multiple phone calls, right, we came up with a way to do it, which is, guess what? The special appeal, the paddle raise. People can give at the level that's meaningful to them. And so we did this, and we were quite successful.
Yeah.
And then we did it another year, and we were even more successful. And now we have got coffers, right, with money in them.
Yep.
And people are able to give and leave a legacy, right? Yes. They donated. So now they're leaving a legacy. And we found that older, especially more experienced auctioneers, I won't call them older, more experienced auctioneers that were, kind of at the decline or kind of at the end, they knew what they were doing because they were helping other auctioneers, right? Financially, by bringing in guest speakers and so that was what it was all about. And Kathy's legacy also at the Benefit Auction Summit that we have every year, Kathy Kingston, we were able to raise some money and endow I forgot what it's called, but to endow funds to bring in outside speakers. Kathy, because Scott, we can't just have local homegrown talent teaching what we know. We can't have Scott Robertson can teach and Kathy Kingston can teach, but they're going to probably have already heard it before. We've got to get people outside our expertise to come in, to talk about things that are going to help. We know this part of fundraising. We need to know that part of fundraising.
Gotcha.
And so that's what we were able to do. And now every year at the Benefit Auction Summit, there are 3 or 4 guest speakers that we pay, right? Yep. We're not looking for volunteers, that we fly in and pay because we've raised that money. And then guess what we do? We have a fundraising auction. Imagine that. So we do a fundraising auction and we try our best to fill the coffers back up, and we're usually very successful at doing that. So it's no net, right?
Yeah.
We raise what we want to raise to be able to. And that was all set up because of what Kathy said. Wow. Now, back to us doing. So anyway, Kathy and I were on stage for a couple of years, and then we started bringing in other people, right? Because everybody needs a little time to shine, and we don't want it to get old. And so we bring people in, and there was a thing that a person before. He had this idea that if everybody gives $12 a month, it'll raise $144. Well, that was their highlight before.
Yeah.
Well, that idea never left. And we'd always say, I won't say the man's name, but we always said the $144. And I'm standing beside Kathy, and we're watching it all going on. And now it's been going on for like 6 years or 7 years or something like that. And I said, hey, Kathy, do you think they're ever going to say that, that you and I were instrumental in creating, this system of raising money? Because, by that time, it's been going on for at least a dozen years. And she turned to me and she says, Scott, no, I don't, but it doesn't matter. What matters is we've helped them to set up a system to raise money to help other auctioneers.
Boy, does that live into the vision.
Oh, my goodness.
Relationships and systems.
But it was perfect, right? Because I'm like going, wow, why aren't they talking about me? Kathy set me straight and said, no, and it doesn't matter. Wow. So
celebrating her as we start to bring an end to this beautiful debut episode. Any other things you want to share? Anything you really enjoyed about our journey in this first episode? Anything you loved about what we talked through? I'm going to share mine in a minute. Anything for you?
Well, one of the things, you talk about, being present and being known. When I started as a fundraising auctioneer, I didn't have a mentor who was a fundraising auctioneer.
Yep.
I was just learning as I went. And it's always funny to hear students say, I've been at this for 1.5 years. And I'm like, I was at it for 5 years. Before I even thought I had a little bit of a handle on what I was doing. Now we teach people how to be better fundraising auctioneers right off the bat. So I didn't know, but when I started going to the National Auctioneers Association, and I found, the first year, 1999, was the first year they'd ever had a class in fundraising auctions. At the seminar, because they were all about how to sell cattle, And so that was a real eye-opener, because I'm like, wow, I've come to the same conclusions for the most part.
Right.
And now, cut to the chase. We're way more advanced, and we're way more able to help others.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
All across the country. I don't care if you're in Kansas. I have a good friend in Kansas, and she teaches with me, Tricia Brower, and she teaches with me at the Benefit Auction Specialist Designation classes. And a good friend, Misty Markham, right, who's from Oregon, and who, by the way, did one of the first virtual fundraising auctions. But we were both so busy trying to learn how to do it, we didn't help each other. But what was, because we couldn't. But what was really fun was after we did ours on Monday, or on Tuesday rather, the NAA called me and said, hey, will you and Misty be on a call, right? Will you be on a call on Thursday at noon?
Yeah.
To share your information. So Thursday at noon, we got on, and there were 72 fundraising auctioneers from around the country that were holding on to our every word. Now, we'd figured out how to make the box, right?
Yep.
And we told them what we knew, and we told them what we didn't know. But, we'd only had a week to do it.
Yeah.
But from that, launched an entire industry. And one of the things with virtual auctions, and auctioneers saying, oh, I don't want to do that. That's out of my skill sets.
Yeah.
They sat on the sidelines. But you know who else sat on the sidelines? Their charity.
That's it.
And it wasn't, well, they don't make as much money. Well, some did, some didn't.
Right.
But you know what? They didn't lose their turn.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
Right? Is if you're a philanthropist and you're helping this charity, and the charity says, I don't want any part of it. I don't want to do it. We're just going to sit down. Well, guess what that philanthropist does? They look around going, I've only got so much time, and I kind of like that charity.
Yep.
So they latch onto that charity, and then when we're back in person, they're like, well, I've kind of moved on, and I'm going to help them now.
Yeah, boy, that's like
that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
Didn't know it at the time.
Right.
But yeah, that was a huge thing.
Yeah.
That was a huge thing.
Wow.
So the reason to do virtual is not to miss your turn.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And that's such another part of the masterclass of our work today. So a couple of things that I've loved. One is this idea of the thread back to your origin story. And then how you really grew up in a close-knit, caring, compassionate, the value structure was there. And then you recognized you're an extrovert. You recognized, I want to get out, explore, and do. The other thing I loved is how you were like, I don't know anything about whitewater. This sounds like a fun summer job. And it wasn't exactly a non-dangerous one, by the way. But you jumped in, and that's a testament to so many things you've shared about having to pivot in 2020 when everything shut down. And it's just, this is the mindset I've got. Growth minded, action oriented. Let's get into it. Let's figure it out. Let me lock myself in a room. Let's get to work. Let's get after it. The final part I want to make sure everybody understands, if they want your guidance, support, vision, strategy, planning, your expertise, championauctioneer.com is the place to go.
Yes.
So we want to make sure that you got that. As we start to really end this beautiful journey, any final words of wisdom, anything you want to share with the beautiful listener, the people watching?
Well, if you think it won't work, you're probably right. But if you think it will work, you're probably right as well, right? I mean, you're going to get kicked in the teeth. You're going to get pushed down. People are going to say negative things, whatever. Yeah. Just don't listen to them. Just keep rising to the top. If you believe in your cause, right, wholeheartedly, and you bring people along with you, you're going to elevate and you're going to do great things. And remember this. This was an eye-opener for me. I don't know what year I learned it. But, I was a school teacher. We didn't make much money, right? My parents were farmers. We didn't make much money. Money was always an issue. To people with wealth, to people that have money, the people that aren't living day to day, money is merely a tool. Money is merely a tool that they're going to go on and help other people. They're not taking bread out of their mouth, right?
Yeah.
They've made enough. Yeah. They've worked, and listen, and they've worked hard for that money. Yeah. They've done whatever it took. Yeah. And now all of a sudden they're sitting on a nest egg that hopefully they're going to want to share with others in your, in your charity. And I have a whole new, and I always did, but people with wealth. I hear people later going, oh, those rich people, they just throw their money at anything. They don't care as long as they're seen being giving. We do want them to be seen giving. That's part of it. That's why it works. If it weren't, we wouldn't have to have a gala, right?
Yep.
We wouldn't have to have a gala. Now, right, wrong, indifferent, it doesn't matter. That's what works.
That's right.
That's what works. That's why you put yeast in bread, because that's what works. It doesn't look like it'll work. It works, right? But to people with money, that's a tool, right? And do not say, oh, those rich people will do anything. No, they won't. And they know, most rich people got rich for a reason, because they did whatever it took
mindset.
Get there.
Yep.
Right? And the one thing they don't want to see your charity or a charity throwing money away. If they think you're not being good stewards of their money, they're going to shut down. So, don't do that. Show them what's going on. And here's something else I'm going to give to you right now. This is a big one. Give people information after the event, right? You want to give people information how their lives are affecting others, and do it right away. Yeah. And give them graphics, right? So they can see photos. The internet's, my God, it's so great. But give. Make them feel appreciated. Oh, remember gratitude?
Yeah.
Remember gratitude. And then after you've given at least 7 times, now when you reach your hand out, you're able to get. Because you've told them, you've explained to them, and you've shown your gratitude for their generosity. So give a minimum of 7 times, and then when your hand is out, they're able to put something in.
Oh, it's so good. Thank you so much. As we wrap up, just want to share, it is an absolute honor and a privilege. We are at the 2-hour plus mark. Easy peasy. Rock this out. So much to unpack in wisdom, knowledge, skill, competence, helping people really understand through really powerful principles. These are the needle movers for really helping grow and capitalize in a way on an event or on a cause or whatever that may look like. Website, championauctioneer.com. And Scott and I send you positive, loving, healing, healthy energy, vibes, and thoughts. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us and we'll take it from there. Thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. And Charlie, thank you so much for everything. You were instrumental when I first started in 2010, when I first went full time and Carolyn Rogers introduced us.
Yep.
And I'm like, oh my God, this guy understands what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He's not
thank you.
It's not just theory, it's practical application.
Yeah.
And, you've been so helpful to me over the years. Thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to share as we wrap up in another way, this is the fuel source for where we're going with the AI, we'll call it revolution, in that it's very common even now. And I was sharing you this in my Tesla. I'll hit the button and talk to Eve, and I'll say, tell me everything about Scott. Tell me who the best charity or benefit auctioneer is, and tell me why they're good. And what we've done today is we've fleshed out so much detail that it can articulate and encapsulate from your words in your voice, and share with that person in their car or on their phone or whatever that looks like. Sometimes it's in their earbuds, in their glasses. And this is just the beginning of that. The side effect, of course, is that it can be propagated all throughout the internet. But the bigger legacy side effect is this is true legacy. From your work today and from our future podcasts, we can create a book, a guide, a workbook, training series, whatever that looks like. And that's all pretty much automatic with the AI revolution and the way AI handles this, we'll call it transcript, or the audio part of our work today. So it's just an honor endorsing this, as we've done with whitewater rafting, with fundraising auctions, with you stepping into these areas of don't know how to do virtual. Let's get it figured out. Now you're stepping into the AI revolution, and we're really going after it. Something fierce, and making sure that we get the word out to really help people be better.
And just to piggyback on virtual, I didn't do virtual because I was going to make money doing it. That was the furthest thing from my mind.
Yeah.
The mind was we couldn't hold galas in person, and these charities that I'm fortunate enough to work with, they need the money.
Yeah, that's their survival. That's their lifeline.
So whatever it takes, we have to do that in order for the money to roll in from the people that are out there. And my goodness, the gratitude that people showed, right?
Yeah.
And the generosity that they showed
Yep.
made all the difference. So,
Well, this is
thank
this
you.
final piece is the endorsement of AI to help the charities. This is what this connection point is for what we're doing right here, right now, is to really get this in that realm.
Yes.
The new way of being.
So I'm excited to learn what all the stuff that AI can do. My assistant Jessica Gear and I, we use AI to write emails.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's
based
pretty
on
small.
good stuff.
But you know what? You can write what you think is a good email
Yeah.
and then put it into AI,
Right.
and it's just so much more articulate.
Yep. And if you use have AI, you can have AI be a role. I want this to be influential, and I want it to be purposeful. And right from that perspective, along the lines, I want these particular outcomes, and you get more articulate in the prompt, it can really solidify conversion for charity, conversion for organization, conversion in that regard.
It's
So,
such a time savings,
yeah.
right? And
It's
for
so
the
good.
charities, such a time savings.
Yep.
Oh, and as the old saying goes, we ain't seen nothing yet.
That's exactly where that's going. All right, next session, next podcast, we're going to dive into the how and really unpack the fact that you essentially in an event run a marathon in terms of your body. If you put a oximeter on in that regard and you see your body's movement and you clock your calories over the watch, you're basically running a marathon in a night.
Yeah.
In an event. And I just want to unpack the physiology and all that. We'll get into some of that in the next session. That being said, thank you, everybody. Have a good one. Take care. Bye.